Hey, Luke. This is Dr. Farah Sultan, and I'm your host for the Be Well and Vital show. And I'm super excited to have Luke Wempe with me today. Luke is an expert biohacker, and that's why he's on this podcast with me today. And today we're going to be talking a lot about all things biohacking and about morning routines. So, welcome, Luke. So good to see you, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so good to see you as well, and thank you for inviting me. Very grateful for the opportunity to be here.
Awesome. So, Luke, for someone who doesn't know what it exactly is biohacking, could you tell them a little bit more about what it is? And also, then we'd like to know a bit about your journey that led you into this realm and what makes you so passionate about biohacking.
Yeah, great question. So biohacking ultimately, it has a fairly broad definition, if you will, but it's basically just working on controlling your environment and your body, the things you put in your body to ultimately control your biology or control your health. So most of you listening in, you've obviously probably started on your health journey. And so a lot of the things you're working on improving probably, can fall into the category of biohacking, right? Because it's basically kind of any conscious decision you're making to improve your health in your life would kind of fall into the definition of biohacking. And
I love that.
I, yeah, I really started my kind of health biohacking journey, if you will, about, 10 years ago now. So just to kind of paint the picture from before, I was probably like, a lot of you listening in, where I was kind of following the standard American diet, right? And just doing things as, conventional wisdom basically tells us to do. And I was even a collegiate athlete. I was in cross country and track. And so I was very much under the belief at that time that it didn't matter what you put in your body as long as you were burning the calories, right? And so I was eating so much sweets and sugars, ice cream, and just all this terrible stuff for my body, thinking, oh, well, I'm running all the time. I'm burning off, the calories and the sugar. I'm not gaining weight. So I must be doing all right, right?
And you
And
probably got away with it too.
yeah, well, for a degree, I thought I was, right? And so I started noticing just more and more health issues. My performance in running wasn't improving, and it actually started to decrease. I was just way more fatigued and tired than I should have been being in college. And then actually kind of what really sparked me to kind of start diving into things was I actually got my testosterone checked. And I was at the very bottom of the range as a 19-year-old, which is, not a good thing, right? Because the range is for all men, and I know you specialize in hormones and things like that. So not a good sign, being 19 with pretty rock bottom testosterone.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean that affected my confidence as well, and all of the other things. Of course, people are usually finding themselves and going out and enjoying life in college, and I didn't feel like I could necessarily do that due to just lack of confidence, low testosterone, low energy, and just all these issues I was struggling with. So that's ultimately what kind of got me into really starting to research health, because I I didn't have a fantastic doctor like you, where actually giving advice on how to improve it. It was basically, well, you're still within the normal range, so you're fine. It's like, I'm 19, I'm on the low end of the range. That doesn't seem right or normal to me, but basically, because I was still normal, nothing else ended up happening or changing, and so I had to ultimately start taking my health into my own hands. And that's what kind of started getting me into the health world and ultimately biohacking.
Awesome. That's amazing. And so, after you realize that something wasn't right with your health and you need to be more proactive, what next steps did you take to get your health to where it is now?
Yeah, so at that point, I just started to try to become basically a voracious learner. I was finding any websites and articles on how to increase or optimize testosterone naturally. I started seeking out health podcasts to get information to figure out what I could do, finding books as well, just to basically absorb as much information as I could, since I didn't have, a mentor or a guide really to help me along the journey. So I was just trying to learn as much as I could as quickly as I could. And that's kind of what started it all.
Great. And so, what amazing changes were you able to see in terms of both your physical health, your inner health, just your overall well being, and even objectively in terms of labs and other parameters? In your case, say your testosterone, as you went through this journey?
Yeah, so some of the things that I noticed improving as I started to work on my health was, one of the first was probably an increase in energy and just not feeling so tired and dragging throughout the day. So that was probably one of the first ones, just having more energy. And then from there, I was also just clearer thinking, because I started having some brain fog as well, which is a fairly common symptom of low testosterone. And so basically, like, school performance started to increase as well, because I could pay attention more and remember things clearer, which was a huge help. And then athletic performance started to improve again. And I'd kind of stopped running at that time as well, which was actually a very beneficial thing for my health and my testosterone, because what I didn't know at the time is, whenever you're constantly running like that, you're obviously increasing cortisol, the stress hormone, which can then decrease testosterone as well, because basically my body thought I was being chased by a saber-toothed tiger every single day for miles and miles on end. So once I stopped sending my body the signal that I'm being chased and started focusing more on like strength training and things like that, my body just started to have a chance to recover, because basically I was just worn down. I didn't have the nutrients and vitamins my body needed, and I was constantly working out really hard and just draining my reserves even more. So as I started to focus on nutrition and switching up the exercise, again, energy started to increase, and then brain fog started to increase, or brain fog decreased, clarity increased, and then sleep also started to improve. And then a lot of the mental benefits started happening, as well, just having more confidence, not being as anxious. And I did some other things in terms of like stress management and just kind of mindfulness techniques as well to help along in that journey. And then, yeah, I've done, testosterone testing over time, and I have been able to notice increases there, especially from the beginning, which has been great to see that the objective data did kind of correlate with the improvements and symptoms that I was experiencing.
Yeah, and even your physique, like, you've become much more muscular and maintained that leanness as compared to when you were a runner, which really came from your workouts that were more focused and directed, which is amazing because you have pictorially chalked your journey, which is very amazing to see. So, for someone who is looking into getting into biohacking, what are some basic things you suggest they could get started with? What are some of your favorite biohacks?
Yeah, great question. There's so many, and so we'll start with some of the easy, basic, free ones, because that's ultimately where I think everyone should start, because a lot of times the free things are the things that actually move the dials the most. They may not be the coolest or the sexiest things, right? But they actually help the most, generally speaking. So one of the things that is really beneficial is just getting a lot of sunlight and being outside in nature, ultimately. Because if you think about it, ancestrally, we were always in nature. We are nature, right? And only over the last couple hundred years have we really started having most of our lives inside with artificial lights and all of these things. And light is a really powerful biological signal. And so just being outside more often in the sun, and even when the sun's rising and setting, there's different wavelengths of light, which ultimately helps set our circadian rhythm. So circadian rhythm is basically the day and night cycle. And as humans, we fall into that natural rhythm of the earth. And a lot of people today, they have circadian rhythm disruption, which affects all things, including hormones. Because, as you know, certain hormones peak at certain times of day. But when we have, circadian disruption, that isn't allowed to happen. So getting in sunlight and ideally having the sun shine on as many places as possible. Because where the sun and the light shine can have a beneficial effect on those areas. So for the men out there, if they're trying to increase testosterone, yes, trying to get sun as many places as you can is beneficial for increasing testosterone. Obviously, do it in a private setting.
I love that. And especially right now with the pandemic, that is something which is free and everyone has access to. And it even strengthens your immune system, your vitamin D levels. There's so many benefits, and you sleep better. And with everyone being on devices, how important is that to maintain your circadian rhythm? Because it could easily go like a freight train and you get lost in time when you're spending too much time on Netflix and things like that.
Yep, absolutely. So it's that huge dichotomy. It's not that, all technology is evil or bad, but we do need to limit the uses and make sure we are in control of our devices and our devices aren't truly controlling us, right? Because
Yes.
very, very easy to become addicted. And so with notifications going off and all of that, basically phones are created to be addictive devices. So just make sure that you're running your phone and your phone's not running you, and making sure that you're taking breaks to get out into nature. So light is, one of my, basically probably my top biohack. And again, completely free.
Exactly.
Another one would be grounding or earthing, which is basically just the concept of actually physically coming in contact with the earth. And I know it may sound weird, but if you think about it, when was the last time you truly came in contact with the earth without, socks or shoes on or being on concrete or asphalt? When was the last time your feet were, in the dirt or the mud or the grass? And just actually coming in contact with the earth. And a lot of times people, they may think it's woo-woo when they first hear about grounding or earthing, but just to kind of put it, as simply as possible, is the earth has spare electrons that we can absorb. And so just coming in contact with the earth, we absorb the negative electrons from the earth, and it actually has a very powerful antioxidant effect. A lot of you have probably heard about antioxidants as being beneficial supplements. Well, the best antioxidant, in my opinion, is grounding and earthing. And guess what? It's also free. So just going outside and coming in contact with the earth, because free radicals, the damaging things within our body, are basically a positive charge. So those damaging positive charges combine with the negative electrons to create a neutral charge, which basically mitigates the damaging effects of the free radicals.
That's so powerful and so simple. And another thing that I've heard you talk about is the cold, especially in this weather. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so the cold is another one of those great hormetic responses. So basically hormesis is kind of the philosophy of what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And so by constantly exposing yourself to cold, you are basically building your resilience, boosting your immune system. Cold can help increase testosterone. It helps improve your mental functions and capacities, basically decreases anxiety and depression and things like that. So and it also helps increase fat loss. So a very easy, potent technique with lots of benefits. Yes, there is the period of time where, yes, you will be cold. And I know people don't necessarily enjoy that, but again, it's one of those things that does make us stronger And once you start to do it more and more, and you just feel how powerful the effects are, it gets a lot easier to incorporate. And so a great place to start with that is what's known as a contrast shower.
Mhm.
So, you can start off hot or warm how you usually do. And after 30 minutes or so, switch to full blown cold for about 30 seconds, and then go back to hot, and basically just rotate back and forth. And over time, work on slowly increasing the amount of time that you stay cold in the shower, and basically you'll get more and more benefits. One caveat with that is, if you are feeling under the weather, avoid the cold, because it does suppress your immune system for a period of time before it bounces back. So again, if you don't feel great, avoid the cold. But if you're healthy and feeling well, then get in some cold to become even more resilient.
I love that. And we were talking about fat loss with cold exposure. What about fasting and intermittent fasting?
Yeah, fasting is another great technique to utilize, whether intermittent fasting or longer multi-day fasts. So I'm a big fan of intermittent fasting. So basically, every day there's about a 12 to 16 hour window where I don't eat.
Mhm.
And for some people, I know that may sound, crazy, or like a really long period of time, but it's really not too difficult. Especially if you're sleeping, say about 8 hours a night, which we should. Well, there's 8 hours that you're not eating, right? So now we're looking for an additional 4 to 6 hours. So if you avoid eating about 2 hours before bedtime, basically once you wake up, try to go about 2 hours or so prior to eating. And the purpose for that is, again, going back to nature and how we ancestrally lived. There weren't grocery stores on every single street block, right? And so we had to go out and hunt and gather our food, and we weren't always successful.
Right.
And so if you think about it, it really doesn't make sense that we would get weaker, over time of not having food for like 12 hours or something. And so a lot of the mechanisms in our body actually get upregulated, such as growth hormone increases, testosterone increases, our mental function increases, fat loss increases, and things like that as we fast. Because again, we basically got stronger as we fasted, because that gave us the extra advantage we needed to, catch the next meal, or, find the next food that we got our next meal from.
Exactly. And what are some of your favorite sleep hacks other than light and fasting?
Yeah, so those are both really good ones. So I know you said not counting light, but I'm going to touch on one thing with light real fast with sleep, is blue light blocking glasses are extremely beneficial in the evening, because basically the sun produces blue light mainly during the middle of the day, and then blue light decreases as night goes on, and then as the sun goes down, there's basically no blue light naturally.
Mhm.
Contrast that with artificial lights, cell phones, TVs. They're almost exclusively blue light. And blue light, again, is a signal that it's middle of the day. So if you're inside and the lights are on, or you're watching TV, or you're on your phone or your computer, you are sending the signal to your body that it's daytime. So it's no wonder that you don't get tired and you don't fall asleep. So blocking blue light at the end of the day is extremely beneficial, so you can actually produce melatonin so you can fall asleep. Other tips for sleep that are beneficial is having a very consistent sleep and wake time.
Mhm.
And ideally trying to keep that consistent even on the weekends,
Mhm.
because that's where a lot of people kind of go off the rails, is on the weekends, right? But when you think about it, that's 2/7 of the time, which is fairly significant. So you never really truly get into a rhythm if you're doing it for 5 days and then you throw it off for 2 days and then try to get back to it for 5 days. So consistent sleep and wake times is really beneficial there. And actually cold before bed helps as well, because when we fall asleep, and especially when we get into a deep sleep, our body temperature decreases.
Mhm.
So by taking a cold shower or something like that before bed, you can actually help kind of increase that process of getting into a deeper sleep and a more restorative sleep. A couple other kind of biohacks that can help with it. So going back to grounding or earthing, they actually make grounding and earthing sheets or mats that you can put on your bed. So I have one of those on my bed. So I'm grounded, all night long, and that helps increase sleep. And I actually wear the Aura Ring, which is a data tracker, so I can track my sleep. Oh, perfect. You got one too. I've noticed an increase in like my sleep architecture and structure since using the grounding mat. For those that do like, the different products and things like that can help things, a PEMF or pulsed electromagnetic field therapy device can also help improve sleep quality. And there's tons of different products out there depending on what you're looking for and various different price ranges. But that would be an option to increase sleep as well. And then just, I guess, one other tip I'll throw in there that I'll do sometimes, especially when I'm traveling or I'm trying to kind of reset my circadian rhythm, is melatonin. And so then I'll take melatonin about an hour before bed. I don't do it consistently because I want my body to produce melatonin naturally. But again, it's kind of a nice hack to eliminate jet lag or things like that. Melatonin can be a huge, huge help there.
Yes, it is huge. And talking about blue light, what is that blue on your tongue?
Yes, yeah. So for those that are watching the video version, my tongue is blue, and so basically, it's a very potent nootropic, or basically smart supplement, where it really enhances brain function. So it's called Troscriptions is the name of the product. It's created by a doctor, and basically the blue is a compound called methylene blue, which is a mitochondrial enhancer. So basically it improves your mitochondrial function. Your mitochondria produce ATP, which is the energy currency of the cell. So the more ATP your mitochondria produce, the more energy you have to basically perform cellular functions, and the healthier you'll be. And your brain has a ton of mitochondria, so it really helps activate brain function as well. And also, since we're currently living in the COVID-19 pandemic, methylene blue has actually been shown to have very profound beneficial effects on helping reduce the symptoms and complications of COVID-19. It also has some CBD in it, which helps reduce brain inflammation. And inflammation, worsens pretty much any disease or symptom state. So reducing inflammation is beneficial. And then it actually has a small amount of nicotine as well. And nicotine also is a great nootropic and basically enhances brain function. It also has been shown to have very beneficial results with COVID-19. So to be very clear, that does not mean smoke cigarettes, right? Because that has thousands of other chemicals in it. I'm very specifically talking about nicotine, which again, it is an addictive substance. So use small amounts and don't use it daily, but there are benefits behind it as well, especially when you're avoiding all of the other toxic chemicals that cigarettes have.
Yeah, and a lot of these are backed up by studies and research, because I know I've read about nicotine and studies related to dementia and prevention of dementia. So even with these biohacking tools, is there a lot of science backing it in terms of studies for the skeptics?
Yeah, absolutely. There's tons of studies out there on all of these different things that I've talked about, from sunlight having tons and tons of benefits, setting the circadian rhythm. They've even done studies where basically just being in the sunlight helps improve your microbiome. And the microbiome, is all the different bacteria in our gut and so on. And so even just getting it on our skin has an effect internally. And so very robust scientific studies on light and the impacts that it has. Same with grounding and earthing. They've done different like thermography studies where you can actually see after a few days or even minutes the reduction in inflammation that people have, or the increase in circulation and wound healing increasing. There's tons of research behind the PEMF therapy that I mentioned as well. And so, yeah, tons and tons of things. And then methylene blue, nicotine, as you mentioned, they already have, quite a few studies on them. And for those two specifically with COVID as well.
Yes. So, talking about brain health and mindfulness, let's talk about routines, especially morning routines, because that itself can be a biohack in terms of leveling your wellness and health.
Yeah, morning routines are absolutely crucial, and evening routines, I would say, are up there as well. Basically, we generally thrive better when we have certain routines and patterns to our day. And there's lots of different things that you can incorporate into your morning routine, and the order can vary. But a few things that I would definitely make sure are incorporated would be some sort of mindfulness, whether you do like a meditation session, a breathing session, a visualization session, just something to really get your mind right and clear. I'm a big fan of Wim Hof breathing. So that's a fairly routine staple in my morning routine, is doing some Wim Hof breathing. And that just really helps put you in a parasympathetic or relaxed state, and just really helps get my mind clear and focused. So my mind isn't, jumping around to the 50 different things I need to do that day. So I'm just very clear and focused from the start. So those would be a few different things to consider incorporating there. Journaling is extremely powerful as well, and there's lots you can journal on. But one thing that I would recommend as a staple would be gratitude.
Mhm.
And that's one thing I do every morning. I write down at least 3 things that I'm grateful for that day. There's actually quite a bit of studies and research on this, that focusing on gratitude in the morning makes for happier, healthier people, because
Mhm.
you're seeking out the good in the world, because ultimately we notice what we focus on. So if we purely focus on negative things and negative thoughts, more negative things are going to be attracted to us, and that's what we're going to notice in the world. And same thing with positive and gratitude. There's actually a funny picture I've seen online that does a great job of explaining this, where basically there's 2 people on the same bus. One person's on one side and they're looking at the mountains, and there's like the sun shining. It's just this beautiful scene. And then on the other side of the bus, he's looking out the other window, and it's just all like doom and gloom on that side. There's like a cliff right there, and he's just all sad and depressed. And it's like, just change your focus, right? And sometimes that's all it takes. And so gratitude is extremely beneficial there. Personally, I also journal like my affirmations and things that I'm trying to, different core values and traits that I'm trying to instill in myself, or just kind of keep on the forefront of my mind for the day, is a great technique there. And then I'll also journal, about the 2 or 3 like big tasks that I want to accomplish that day. So I don't come up with a huge list. Ideally, keep it small, focus on the 2-3 things max that will basically make that day a win if you complete those things. And you're much more likely to just get them done then. And then in the evening, actually come back and journal again and do more of like a reflective session. Because ultimately, we need to analyze our own results to constantly keep improving, right? Just like with business and so many other areas, we need to keep track of stats and basically analyze different things to improve our lives. Another component of the morning routine that I would recommend would be some sort of movement or exercise. You don't necessarily have to do your workout in the morning, especially if you're not a morning workout person. I'm personally not, but I always get movement in the morning, whether it's a stretching routine or something like that, just to get my body set up on a good note. About 4 days a week, I'll do a sauna session in the morning as well, because sauna has tons of benefits. Increases longevity, decreases risk of Alzheimer's, can actually help with increasing like growth hormone and testosterone, can also help with detoxing the chemicals and toxins that we have in our body that build up, can also help with muscle gain because of activating heat shock proteins and all of these other things. So cold and heat both have a place. And basically after the sauna, I go straight to a cold shower to get the contrast there and get my body cooled off. And so that's a fairly typical morning for me. Again, Wim Hof breathing, get my mind right, maybe do some visualizations, and then do some journaling, focus on gratitude and the main things I want to accomplish that day, as well as my affirmations, and then do a movement routine, hop in the sauna most days. And then after that, that's generally as the sun is starting to come up. And then at that time, I go outside, rain, shine, snow, doesn't really matter. I will go outside during the sunrise time of day and at least try to spend 10 to 15 minutes outside grounded while the sun's coming up.
Awesome. And you mentioned that you don't necessarily do your workouts in the morning. So what time do you do that? And what have you been using? Because I know now you don't go to the gym. So what are your hacks for working out and exercising and building lean muscle mass?
Yeah, great question. So I usually work out between 4 and 5 p.m. And the reason for that is that's actually when like muscle synthesis and like reaction time peak. So going back to circadian rhythm, again, certain things peak at certain times. And so if you can, I personally try to build that into, my day and routine. And that's why I work out then. I also just have naturally always felt better at that time when I work out. I used to try to be a morning workout person because people are like, oh, you need to, exercise in the morning and it sets your day up for success. I always felt more tired doing that. And I just always had better workouts and I was always stronger in the afternoon. And then I found out about that. I was like, oh, it makes so much sense. So that's when I prefer to work out. And then, you are absolutely right. I do not have a gym membership, haven't gone to the gym in over a year and a half now, actually. And so I use a device called the X3 bar. It's invented by a doctor and he's done lots of research on it and developed it, through a lot of research where it uses resistance bands. It has a bar and a platform, but you can do all of the major exercises with it, and you actually get a much stronger and better response from working out than traditional strength training. And I'll try to explain why. So ultimately, it's also known as like variable resistance training. So what that means is the resistance changes because we're using resistance bands. So imagine a curl. Right. So say you're doing curls. If you have dumbbells in your hand, the first part of the motion is the toughest, right? Because that's a weaker range of motion. But once you're about halfway up, the second half's super easy because that's a stronger range of motion. Well, think about if you had a resistance band. The resistance is increasing the whole entire curl, and it's actually at the highest at the top. So you're able to exhaust the muscle fibers more completely by using resistance training, because once you can't do a full rep anymore, you're still not done. You keep doing basically like 3/4 reps, half reps, and then quarter reps till you absolutely can't anymore. And basically you are completely fatiguing the muscle fibers, which is what you're going for with exercising. Because when you go to failure, again, where all the muscle fibers are fatigued, that sends a very clear signal in response to your body to grow and adapt. Right. And so it always blows people's minds, but my workouts are generally 10 minutes max.
Wow.
And I do like three a day, or sorry, 3 a week. So 3 workouts a week, 10 minutes each day. So 30 minutes tops over the course of a week. And people are like, well, there's no way. Well, there is if you focus on the intensity and the right type of intensity. And so I'm a huge fan of the X3 bar, absolutely no affiliation with them either, but I highly recommend using it because it will increase your strength and your muscle gains more so than the gym. And at this point, saving on gym memberships, I've saved money since investing in it. I've saved tons of time because it used to be, a 15 to 30 minute drive to the gym each way. Now my workout's 10 minutes. So I'm literally done by the time I would have even gotten to the gym, which is
Right.
amazing for the time savings there. And then one other thing that I've utilized over the last year or so to help with results as well is known as BFR bands,
Yeah.
which stands for blood flow restriction. And you can buy these inexpensively online. And basically you can get them for your legs or your arms. And so what it's doing is you're not blocking the arterial flow. So you're not stopping the blood from getting into the muscles,
Right.
but you're decreasing the amount of blood that can come out of the muscles. So basically you get a very, very powerful pump from using BFR bands because the blood basically pools in the muscles as you're exercising. Especially if you're injured, it's a great way to kind of recover because you can use lighter weight while still having the same beneficial impacts of weight training, but just with a much lighter weight, which you're much less likely to get injured if there's a lighter weight. And it's really beneficial for increasing growth hormone and testosterone and just muscle repair because our blood is basically what carries the nutrients, oxygen, vitamins, and so on throughout our body, right? And so if the blood is basically pooling in the muscles, the nutrients and vitamins and oxygen have more time to be utilized before they go to the rest of the body. And so you can have profound effects with BFR training as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And what are some books that you've read that you have absolutely loved and would love to recommend?
Great question. So there's so many, but within for biohacking specifically, I would check out Ben Greenfield's book Boundless.
Mhm.
And the reason I would pick that one is it is a textbook of a book. It's like 650 pages on
Yeah.
all things biohacking. So if you just want a single book to be able to reference for anything, that's a very, very powerful one.
Yeah, that's a great one. And I would love to continue this conversation more on diets because Luke has done a lot of research into diets, and that would be a whole topic by itself. And Luke, anything you would like to share in parting specific to this topic?
Yeah, I would just say have fun with it. Focus on progress over perfection, especially if you're just starting your health journey and so on. Just keep taking that next step. Keep trying to find new ways of improving your health, and just ultimately keep taking one step at a time. Obviously, there's a lot of stress and craziness going on in the world, so just continue to focus on the things that you can control, which your health is within your control. And so again, focusing on the lifestyle pieces, nutrition, getting out in the sun, grounding, focusing on sleep, and just take one step at a time. And before you know it, you'll be way farther ahead than where you currently may be.
Great. Thank you so much. You've shared wonderful information. I'm sure this is going to be useful to everybody who is listening. So if you have any questions, I will be posting this on social media, so feel free to ask. And I will be inviting Luke back for a second session. And thank you so much and happy biohacking.
Yes, thank you so much and look forward to being back.
Thank you.